All right. We are live. Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Mark Scott, also known as PhxDev, and I am your host this evening. With me, as always, well, not always, sometimes, with me sometimes, Andrew Albury-Dore.
It's me, the thunder from down under.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Cool. All right. And we have a special guest, Mike Barr. Hi, Mike Barr.
Hey, Mark.
How are you?
Good. Glad to be here.
Good to kind of see you. It's audio, which is great that we're testing this because I love it. Because I did want to enable people to just have audio only and not have video because I think that's an option, right? People should be able to do that. So,
is it coming in clear?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, you're sounding great. Today's topic, before we get too far into this, today's topic is resumes. I was talking to you gentlemen earlier about your resumes. I think Mike, you had said you haven't updated yours in over 6 years.
That's correct.
Wow. I actually printed mine out, so we've got props. And Andrew, you said yours was like 10 pages.
Oh no, I did not say that.
All right. Well, before we get into it, I'm going to open a beer because I'm very thirsty. So, Andrew, I know it's like what? It's like 8 a.m. your time, right?
10:30 in the morning.
10:30. Oh, I was close, man. That was the best I've gotten. But Mike, if you've got a beverage, go ahead. And anybody in chat, hey chat. I've been neglecting chat just a little bit, unfortunately. Kevin's been waiting for quite a while, so I'm going to throw Kevin up here. And Joseph, as always. Hey, Joseph. I want to get through our topics, but I do want to let everybody know that I've kind of been planning and thinking that maybe we could do this. I didn't expect Mike and Andrew to be here. But what would be really neat is if we could actually, I want to get some people from chat on the stream. So I'm going to open it up. I'll tell you in a few minutes how to get there because I don't want it to go insane at the moment. Like we'll just kind of ease into this, make it really easy to do. So first thing I want to do, let's get through our resume content. Then we'll allow people, if they've got questions or comments that want to come on later, to badger us and come on and give everyone the link. It's a very easy link, and we'll let that happen. Awesome. So resumes are super interesting. I don't know if you guys, I love resumes. It's my favorite topic. It's I hate resumes. Resumes. I hate, like, come on. What is the worst part about interviewing and getting a job? It's like, yeah, I guess interviewing is pretty bad. That's not everybody's favorite, but how do you make one page about yourself, right? Like, how do you make one little page about yourself and tell everybody about you? It's very hard, very hard.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think the idea that I had before, where I said just a picture of yourself, on one page.
Finger guns. Yeah.
Finger guns. And then when you get the interview, you're like, oh, I see you liked my resume.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, that's perfect. It's got to be finger guns because then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're like, I knew that was going to happen. I was going to get the job. That's why I already had them.
Yeah.
Cocked and loaded.
Man, maybe that's what I should actually do to all of those recruiters that just send me random, oh, we see you're Servicenow developer. Here is job, send CV.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, this is in a different country, but here is my CV.
Here it is. It's a QR code that takes you to just a video. Finger guns.
And then on my shirt is another QR code that's Rickroll.
To be honest with you, that meets my 7-second criteria. I would probably interview that person. I'm not joking. If you gave me finger guns, I'm like, you know what? All right, let's see what you got.
Yeah. We've got another person joining the stream here. Here's Jace. Hey, Jace.
Oh no,
hey guys.
You want a quick intro? You're famous now, buddy.
It's our famous newscaster.
Yeah, your famous news show now. That's been going viral.
This is super blurred.
No, okay. There you go. No, wait. There you go. All right.
Worse.
Get back over. Yeah. Better.
Sorry about that, guys.
There you go. Yeah.
You guys like my news episode I put out
Yeah.
today?
That was great.
Sub 3 minutes, I think.
Sub 3 minutes, right? And that is Joseph's advice, like from the last stream, right?
I've been watching a lot of Gary Vee and listening really closely to what Joseph said the last time I was on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Try to make it as short as possible. I thought maybe I should make shorter ones, like little ones through the week, but that seems like a lot more work.
Interesting. Kevin says you are famous. The bearded wonder.
The bearded wonder.
Yeah.
This morning, actually, I woke up and there was snow outside again in Minnesota.
Are you kidding
me? It
me?
all melted. No, I'm not kidding you. My coworkers told my other coworkers to stop doing the winter dance outside, and they're like, "No, I'm going to keep doing it."
What is the winter dance?
I mean, it's like like people used to do rain dances to ask for rain from the weather gods. That kind of.
I don't know. I'm from Phoenix. There's no such thing as a winter dance. We have summer, we have spring, and that's it. Those are the two in between. And right now, all the native plant life have figured out that it's spring. They're like, oh, okay. And so like my allergies have been crazy. It's disgusting. Everything is blooming. It's so terrible.
Meanwhile, we're actually coming down or out of summer. We had a cool summer. We only had a couple like 35, 36 degrees Celsius days, which I think is up near 100 or something Fahrenheit. And now we're heading into dry summer as opposed to wet summer.
Dry summer. Yeah, that's awesome.
I cannot believe how hot it gets down there for you guys. Upside down, Andrew.
Yeah,
it's a bit warm sometimes.
Well, and everyone's preparing for fire season down there too now, right?
No, probably after the fires we had before COVID hit. The 2019. Yeah, that was pretty nuts.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hate to ruin a good time by bringing up a completely irrelevant topic. But, resumes. Let's do it.
I mean, I don't think it's irrelevant.
I mean, it's not irrelevant, but right. So I wanted to start out. So first of all, everyone has their own version of a resume, right? There are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. Everything I'm about to tell you and everything that all these people are about to say and everybody that comes on the chat, everyone's going to have their own opinions. Every single person you'll ask is going to have a completely different set of criteria for resumes. Every single person. So there are no wrong or right answers. That being said, there are some wrong answers.
I agree. There are ways to make your resume go into the bin.
Yes, there are. First of all, crashed. I can't change my slides. It's all gone. What happened? Why do my slides not change? You've let me down in my first presentation. Like, come on.
Oh no.
Are you recording it?
Anyway, I mean, yeah, it's going to YouTube. That's anyway,
I see.
But anyway, I'm not trying to. It just crashed everything. That's crazy. Let's see. All right, let's go back. Oh, there we go. Okay, so resumes, right? I have seen some things. And this last week, and the reason I decided to talk about resumes was I saw a 9-page resume on LinkedIn today, or this week. 9 pages.
Did it have a plot?
I don't know. It needed an index and a chapter list. Like, why? Wow. Like 9 pages is ridiculous. Like, that is over the top. If you cannot trim yourself down from 9 pages, you have an issue. Like, you did not understand the assignment. I'm sorry. So I've seen some things. And
I think in some parts of the world, though, that's expected.
I mean, okay. So
I don't know, but like I've heard that
okay,
let's set places they want like all those expectations. Yeah.
So Joseph says it was actually a novel. So look, here's the deal. I'm talking about US culturally. I'm talking about US. I'm talking about, I guess I would say Servicenow, right? I work at Servicenow. I'm not. This stream is in no way sponsored by Servicenow. But I would say these are my experiences. This is what I would say is best practice when interviewing for a job you would want near me. So that's what I would say. Now, Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the spot and go. In Australia, do they have? I mean, they do a lot of weird things, but how's the situation with resumes? Is it multi-page or is it single page?
Honestly, like I have recently been hiring at my job, right? And my manager took a job at Servicenow, thanks, left me by myself with a team that had 2 or 3 vacancies, and it was pretty much, I need to get resumes and do hiring and all the fun stuff. And, you know, I think 100% head on, like nail on head, keep them short and concise. But it's not just that either. Like for me, when I look at a resume, the stuff that I've been focusing on, I guess it kind of, it makes a bit more sense. It's like, you know, for a ServiceNow position, we talk about the modules you've been using, certifications, you know, if they're there or not, and work history is pretty important for me. So there's some resumes where I've had trouble telling where you've been, and sometimes I reckon that might have even been on purpose, right? He'll have a particular resume that I saw, and I don't think I interviewed, just had a list of about 30 projects, and some of them were sort of implemented, you know, incident or uplifted incident or something, and it's like, I don't think there was a lot of work there. I think it might have just been a story to add a form, a field to a form. And
let's be honest, right? If everyone's implemented incident, let's just pretend, everyone's done it. Like we've all done it. Everyone's done it. Like that's not an accomplishment I'm going to put on my resume. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I think that resume was about 3 or 4 pages. And by the end of it, I was like, hang on, let's go and actually look at these actual places. And I think they'd been with a partner for 8 or 9 years and had moved up through like a support BA kind of thing into ServiceNow for the last couple of years. And I think for me, if I were going to have a quick read on this person, I guess whether that's a positive or negative read, I want to sort of know, if you're applying for a ServiceNow job, how long have you been in the ServiceNow space? Even if you've been at your job for 10, 15 years, have you been doing it for 1 year? Have you been doing it for 3 years? What kind of major projects have you worked on? And that's kind of what I need. So if you try and obscure that, I think I can't really see that working in your favor.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm there. I'm just nodding along because I'm like, yeah, you're stealing my slides. Like,
sorry.
Here's the thing I want to touch on, because I think what a lot of people are, hey, there's a reason to watch this stream. First of all, I'm going to put myself bigger. There's a reason to watch this stream, because if you're taking notes, right? Andrew is in a position where he very quickly needs to fill a position, right? He has to get it done. I'm not saying currently, but you know, in that regard, if I am going to go through 100 people, let's just pretend, and I don't know, 30% of them have resumes longer than a page, do I really want to go read that? Like, that's a lot of reading. That's 2 per, you know, let's just say, so that's 66 people. That's a lot of pages, right? Like doubles, you know, per person. It's like, holy cow, that's a lot of pages. No one's going to go and do that. And that's my big point that I wanted to bring up. It's 1 page. It's 1 page. It's 1 page. It's 1 page. I don't care who tells you what. It's 1 page. Resume should be 1 page. And here's
people like tweets because they're short.
Because they're short and they don't have attention spans. And here's the thing: if you think it's not about attention span, if you think that it's not about, I don't know, anything, right? Let me tell you something about multi-page resumes. I have a prop here. I printed out some paper that has nothing on it because I didn't want to be this mean to somebody's resume. But pretend I'm Andrew in a hurry trying to hire this position, and all of a sudden
I lose the top sheet.
And what do you think happens to this? It goes in the trash. It immediately goes. This one was ripped. I'm not going to look for it. It's in the trash. And if you want to take that risk, right? If you are willing to take that risk with multi-page resumes, that's fine. Go ahead. Here's the other thing. If your resume is front and back, this part I'll argue, maybe. But do you really want to take the risk that I'm going to turn the page over? 9 times out of 10 people don't read directions anyway. Have you seen people like line up for a hot dog? Like, it takes people a lot of mental power to get, like, do you really think that someone's going to turn it over? That's a risk. You're taking a risk, right? I honestly think that people that have multi-pages and front and back, right, they're taking a risk. Andrew, I'm going to you.
Yeah, I'd like to point out the fact that I haven't seen a printed resume in about 10 years, just FYI.
Well,
all of the hiring I did was digital PDF sent through from HR. I scrolled.
I agreed. It's a risk, though, right? Again, it's a risk.
Yeah.
How much are you sure they're not going to? Because how many? And Andrew, you haven't, arguably haven't been in the office, but I have been physically handed a resume within the last 10 years. I would say that, right?
Okay.
I'm not saying it's impossible, and I agree everything's going digital, but
the worst part too about some of the 2-page resumes is when the good stuff is on the second, like it's half of the second page. It's like you put in all this stuff, and it's like and then you flip it, and you're like, well, why didn't you put this up front and center? Like, this is what I wanted to see, but now I'm throwing it out.
So here's a great question. How do you show projects on your resume, right? So like Mike, to your point, how do I show a project on my resume instead of just this overall like I just make this one page like, oh well, whatever, like it doesn't show anything, right? And I think what you're talking about, Mike, like having multiple pages, right? It no one's going to go through that. Like they just don't have the time. And I'll show you. Here's my answer to how do you do that. This is my resume, and I'll share this with you guys if you'd like. My resume, I picked 2. Okay, I picked 2. My top 2 employment, my top 2 projects, and then I've got some roles and my certifications. Unfortunately, I only have 1 certification, so it just happens to fit. You notice how it just happens to fit. It just happens to fit. That's why, because it's singular. It's one, and I narrowed it down. I didn't write about every project, right? I can't. I had to pick the top 2, and especially if you're going for a job where you know something about the company, right? If I'm gonna go work with Phil Swan at Rangoon, right? I'm going to talk about the security projects that I've done, right? I'm going to pick 2 security projects, and I'm just going to hammer that because I know Phil loves security projects, right? Phil's a security person. That's what I'm going to try to talk about. So I do 2. It's 2 jobs of, two experience, 2 jobs, 2 relevant jobs, 2 relevant projects, and then just a word cloud of skills and my certifications, and you're out. And that's all you need. And by the way, here's the last thing. This is the last thing I'm going to harp on about mine. Last 2 things. If I quickly show this to you and then pull it away, what was the first thing you guys saw?
The color blue.
Okay, the color blue. Let me give it a second more. And then I'll go down. What was the first thing you saw?
Your name.
My name. My name
Scott.
is the biggest thing on this piece of paper. And
Who has 2 first names?
Yeah, 3 actually. But I'm not a serial killer, I promise. That's my only joke. That's the only one I've got about my name. Okay, so right down here in the footer.
Can't see it.
I know, I'm sorry. It's the focus is set for here. It's my name and my phone number again. Because, and I swear this has happened to me. I swear. It was torn up in the middle of our interview as kind of a joke, right? I got the job, by the way, but then if these 2 sheets of paper hit the floor, at least if someone picked up the bottom half and said, wow, that's an interesting experience, and they could still get in contact with me. And if you don't believe that people are operating on this level, that's the level everyone's operating at. And you're fighting other people that are thinking about this stuff the way that I am. It's insanity, but you have to do that stuff. You just have to.
Yeah. Something I'd like to probably point out about that 2 rule that you've got there. When I'm looking, so I get emailed a resume, I open the PDF, assume it's 2 to 3 pages because most of them are. I do a quick scroll, and honestly, like stuff that I've seen in bold or headings will catch my eye. And then the next thing that I start looking at is, like in our position, we're hiring for a senior dev, whatever, the length of experience, right? So how, if you're only showing 2 jobs, assuming you've got 4, like I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th Servicenow position, how can you communicate that you have that experience? I've been in Servicenow for 5-6 years, which is a pretty big whack for a developer now. How do you communicate that effectively?
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess that question is to the panel, right? So I mean, what I would say is it's about right, first of all, you need to again, I would say going into an interview, you have to understand the platform is so vast right now. Like it doesn't, if you just say ITSM, right, it's not enough. Like you have to be specific. It has to be incredibly specific about what did you do? You know, was it administrative? Was it developer? And then I think that's what you sit there and kind of embellish, right? It's here's point one, here's point, or here's job opportunity one, here's job, not opportunity, here's job I worked one, job work I worked two. Even if it's just one, right? You put that list of here are the things that I did, here are my daily duties, here are the plugins that I implemented, or I implemented plugins, right? That's a process in itself, right? I think you list out everything that you can think of on the platform of here's what here's what on a day-to-day I'm doing. I think if you have the inverse problem, right, where you don't have enough, and I think Kevin's talking about, you know, how do you handle working for numerous companies? I think it's in the same vein, right? You do the same thing. You've got to digest it. What was the best possible experience? Because I know I'm going to go interview for this company, right? What's the experience that's relevant? I've got to get it to that relevant experience and just smush it down, right?
Yeah.
And then the same problem in reverse, right? If I'm going to go and get a job for, you know, this partner, and I know that this partner does these type of implementations, first of all, do your research, figure out what the partner is, you know, what is their specialty? Do they work on long projects? Do they work on short projects? Not that you're going to be able to find that out very well, but maybe you could ask somebody, right? Things like that kind of metadata about what the company does. Digest that and put that into your resume. It's like if they're security focused, you need to talk about how you implemented GRC. You need to talk about how you implemented, you know, all of these security plugins, or if you didn't at your job, how you went and got a security certification in, you know, while you tried to champion, you did this, you like anything that you did in your PDI, right? And I know that there's going to be some people that are watching this that it's their first time, right? It's their first job at ServiceNow. Talk about your PDI. What did you do? Why did you do that? What did you implement? How did you, you know, when you messed with stuff, like, did you learn something? Did you break something and have to fix it? I mean, holy cow. I'd love to have an interview with someone that said, I don't have any ServiceNow experience, but I broke this on my PDI and then I fixed it, and then sit there and have a conversation with them about it, because that's job experience, right? That's the kind of stuff I want to interview you for. So I think the big thing that, you know, if you're going to distill this down, and this was my final point, right? It's a tool, right? Your resume is a tool. It is not supposed to be your portfolio. It is not supposed to be an exact representation of who you are on a page, right? It is supposed to just open the door in interviews so that people can talk to you about things. My opinion, hot take, right? It's only supposed to be this conversation starting tool.
Mm-hmm. So Mark, I want to circle back to a question you asked me.
Sure.
About how do you highlight your projects, your wins, and things like that on your resume? And one of the things that I do, you know, so let's just say an ITSM implementation. It's a simple one, but the way that I word it in my resume is that company A, and I don't put dollar amounts, but you should, because it matters to a company, you know. So the way that I would phrase certain my projects or my highlights is that this company was spending a ton of money on manual resources when I did this implementation, which allowed us to automate these processes, and thus the company has now saved, you know, 30% off the bottom line, or whatever it is, you know.
Numbers, quantify it. Absolutely.
Exactly. Kind of tell that story. You know, I did an ITSM implementation. Okay, great. You changed form layouts. You did a couple of business rules. Nobody cares about. I mean, we care, but when you're doing that interview, it really comes. And I think Kevin said this: the value that you brought to the company. That's what people look for. That's what I look for when I read a resume. What value did you bring? You did an ITSM implementation, but why? You know.
Well, and beyond that, having that on your resume, right? Like, first of all, as someone that might be in an admin position or a junior developer position, right? Putting that on your resume shows this emotional intelligence of like, not only did I do this, I measured it, and then I used it to my advantage, right? Like it's such a great idea. Like put numbers to it. And I'm not, so the next thing that comes out of my mouth, I want to preface this by saying, don't, like, if you can't measure it, if it's not something that you could physically measure, gauge it, right? Come up with a gauge, like figure out if you can come up with a metric that could, if you think, if there were 40 people at work and you help them, all 40 people do a better job, right? It's like, okay, multiply 40 times 8 hours a day times 5 days a week, right? It's like, do that math and then come up with it. I'm not saying fib. I'm not saying make numbers up. I'm saying, come up with a reasonable estimate, because that's still good. It's still good enough, because no one's going to go double check your work.
Right. Don't lie, but at the same time, give yourself credit where credit is due, and when I do implementations or like custom projects, that's one of the first things that I think about at the very beginning is what am I solving, but how am I making the company better? Am I saving the company money, or am I making the company money? And at the end of the day, that's what all companies look for in an employee, whether it's ServiceNow or a janitor. Are you making the company money, or are you saving the company money? That's the whole point.
Yeah. Kevin likes numbers.
I do, Kevin.
Numbers are important. I mean, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. If you can put down, like, I built a solution that saves this team half an hour a day, every day of the week, and that each person on the team is like, let's say there's 10 people, right? Like, you can easily figure out what that value is. You don't have to say like money. You can just say, I saved this team, what's
25 hours a week.
Yeah,
25 hours a week.
That's a lot of,
like,
it's money.
You could probably hire an intern at that rate, regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what interns get paid specifically, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can show that kind of value. And even if it's not a thing that is measurable in that way, like you said, you can still like kind of show what the value was that you perceived that the work you did saved them.
Well, that's ServiceNow's motto: make the work for you. And that's what we're all about. We're not here trying to take away positions, but at the same time, we're trying to get people to focus on the more important stuff, not the mundane tasks. And if you can show that and quantify that, you're already 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yep. And then take that idea and apply it to your resume again, right? Like, I'm going to take this and pull it right back down. Like, if you can make the font bigger, do it. If you can make the words easier to read, use a font that is standard across every Word implementation, right? So you don't have to make someone install a font stupid.
Provide it in PDF so that it's exactly how you want it to be.
So no one can edit it, because who knows?
Am I ridiculous for having a page on my website for my resume?
I do as well.
So when somebody says, "Hey,"
I wanted to talk about this.
Talk about
what if you received a resume, Mark, that had a one-pager, fairly concise, and then after each section had a QR code for more, scan here. Would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Well, yes. my security policy mind kind of kicks in where I'm like, what are you doing, right? So I'm probably going to read the URL for the QR code first. Then it's going to go to your website, and I'm going to go, better say resume URL. Like, there better be a reason I'm going here.
QR code is a little overboard, I think. But yeah, I put links on my resume.
I've got links as well. And honestly, one of the resumes that I read recently, I think it was for our what are they called? Not intern, graduate, right? So Australia Post has a graduate program. We were offered a graduate. Here's the resume. Let's have a look. And one of the things that I saw was a GitHub link, right? I checked a GitHub and
immediately. First of all,
it was.
If you're going to put links on, it better work, because GitHub is the first thing. I'm going to go check and make sure that repo is still alive.
Yeah, I checked it. It was there. It wasn't particularly new, but honestly, you know what that told me is that this person is interested in technology, and this person isn't just doing whatever for a job. It was, for me, kind of exciting, because it was one of the first resumes that I'd seen with a GitHub, and I was like, oh, cool, I've got a GitHub. Yeah. I would like it if people would look at my GitHub to see the sort of stuff that I've been doing.
Oh, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of my GitHub.
Me too. I'm ashamed of mine too. I have 120 repos.
I edit things directly on my GitHub. Like,
I think though that it's actually a good thing that you guys brought up, because like one of the things that I kind of think about that's unrelated to the job itself, but how much effort do you put into your resume to make it look good, or your website to make it look good, that you actually care enough about yourself and your role, you know, and how much effort, like if you can make a good looking resume, then I'm not worried about you sending out technical documentation. You know what I mean? Like it kind of fills in some of those blanks that I don't have to ask you about in an interview, or I'm not looking for in a resume. Like, can you do technical documentation, or can you properly align a Word document or make a PowerPoint? I can kind of see that, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I've had people, like, I've interviewed people that put their GitHub on their page, or put it on their resume, and I go to it and then I pick through it, and then I have technical questions about what they did, right? Like, and I know that sounds terrible, but like, if you're going to put your GitHub on there, right, you better be prepared, right?
Yeah,
every repo, every public repo, everything better. Like, where I was like, hey, I was
everything on your resume is a conversation you haven't had with the interviewer that they can ask you about. So if you don't want to answer questions about that thing, don't say it.
Yeah, exactly.
However, if you want to talk about it, make sure you put it on there.
But it also makes the interview a little bit more personable. You know, you're not talking about what is a before business rule, you know, how, you know, why you use script includes. It makes it a little bit more personable with that person. And you know what? They could, because it's their stuff, they can actually speak to it and feel comfortable about it. They don't feel like it's an interrogation. You know what I mean?
And that's why I think it's like there's a third category for GitHub, right? Like I there would be things where it's like, hey, these are the repos I'm okay with you asking me questions about, right? And these ones are the skeleton in the closet that I'm like, I don't know. I checked that in as like some code that I kept from like years ago for, I cloned, or I forked some repo from somewhere. Like,
you can delete or archive old repos. So maybe that's something that, you know, if you are putting your GitHub on your resume, spend a bit of time, go through and just tidy it up, and, you know, pin the ones that you're particularly proud of and make your homepage look cool. Because that's another place. Like, if you're going into more of a dev role, I think there's a way you can actually use like readmes on the home page of your GitHub profile.
Yeah, there is. You can make a repo name of your username, and then you add a readme.md file, and that becomes the top part of your homepage on GitHub. If you want to check it out, github.com/jspenson. I've got one there. It's great.
I'm angry. I'm angry because someone took they took my username, so I'm PhxDev 1. I'm like, you know, I kind of like, I feel like I've established my brand enough. So I'm like, you know, I bet I could get a lawyer.
They're not active. They're pro.
I mean,
maybe you could convince them to sell it to you.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, send them like $100. Like, can I have that username, please?
If I had anything worthwhile on my GitHub, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I'm kind of fine that it's obscured just a little bit, because there's no reason for anyone to go look on there. But I bet a bunch of people are now, which is the nature of the internet.
Let me go on.
You can always go to GitLab.
The only reason why I used GitHub the past couple of weeks was because of Jace, so don't feel bad.
I can't wait to dig more into that project, but my PDI has been down for like a week, so I gotta wait till that comes up before I can do stuff.
PDI has been down for a week. Okay, so do you guys? All right. Speaking of GitHub and all of our projects and resumes and everything, should we unleash this on the world where we allow people into the stream? Is anybody? Are you guys cool with that?
Yeah, let's do half an hour of Q&A.
Okay, so we'll do half an hour of Q&A. I think this is perfect. Like, we'll talk. I don't know. Every time I set a format for something, I totally end up stop doing that. But I think we'll do a half hour Q&A, and then we'll open it up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push a button on my Stream Deck. It's going to make an API request, hopefully. And then I'm going to do this. Hold on. Give me a minute. I'm not quite the master at this yet. If you would like to join the stream, it is currently live. You can hit phxdev.me/show, and you will automatically, you can click a little button at the bottom there. You will automagically be forwarded to the correct stream. Let's see who pops in here. I wish I had the waiting from Jeff.
I wonder if StreamYard lets people connect via their phone.
I think it does, which
That
I
would
think
be
is pretty cool. I've tried it. I've
that's
tried
awesome.
to see if I could, but again, if you're on the stream, or if you're watching the stream now and you're interested in coming on, which might not be a lot of people, I don't know, you're more than welcome to use the link below, phxdev.me/show, and join us. And we'll take your questions live, or you can take them off the air if you'd like. Whatever floats your boat there. Chat just died, like nobody's talking. It's like the most
earlier there was an I asked on YouTube from that sweet poodle who said, hey, how do you deal with resumes and ATSs? I don't know what that means. I'm guessing it's like automatic, like sorting things to get rid of resumes that don't meet the criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a tough one, right?
Yeah. Are you're talking about the auto formatting and stuff that, yeah. So
I'm talking like, I think some resume places, they just like, they cut you if you don't have like,
oh, wow,
HTML or JavaScript or ITIL or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you might need to know somebody there.
Yeah.
When a long time ago, when I worked at a hospital, one of the patients I had to bring from place to place was one of the things he told me was, because he worked in IT and I didn't, we were making small talk. He said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I've always lived by that sense. And it's still so true today.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things too, like, for like junior developers and things like, I know I'm kind of going off the reservation of resumes here, but for junior developers, just get into the space, just start talking to people, because you know what, you never know who you might run into. And again, it's like Jay said, it's who you know. And you might run into someone who's looking for a role in some place, and you know what? Maybe they're looking for a junior developer that I don't like the word groom, but kind of mold, and build, and show them the ropes, and how things are done. So I'm totally with you on that one, Jace.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just telling my mentee this from the Dev Mentee program. Like, put your name in people's mouths, right? Like, post on LinkedIn, keep people interested. Like, be available. Speaking of being available, there are people joining the stream now. I'm so impressed. Joseph, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. This is a near and dear aspect, very close to my heart. So I'm glad y'all are doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you have anything specific you wanted to talk about, or are you just happy about us talking about business?
I think the biggest thing y'all really hit on, I came from a non-IT background. I was an aircraft mechanic. So I knew for me, like, I had to prove how I got whatever experience I had. And a lot of it was in my PDI. What I did in 2019 was I went to all the knowledge labs and actually built everything out, and then would go a little bit further and kind of push the envelope in my free time. What am I learning in my free time? What certs am I trying to get? But then building it in my PDI so that when I got an interview, it wasn't just like, oh, this guy, can write a resume, but what is he actually doing? And I could bring my PDI up in the interview and say, this is what I'm doing. And that also, opened me up to get really quizzed hard. But I also knew like, this is the opportunity and I have to be willing to answer anything. But that's what landed me my first role, because the hiring manager was like, you just seem like a guy that just looking for an opportunity. I said, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And go ahead, Mark.
No, I was gonna say, it's very brave, right? Like to put the things that you said on your PDI, right? Like you're talking about opening yourself up, right? That's huge. And for a lot of time, for people for first time experience, right? It's really hard. Like you've really got to know what you're talking about, because someone could really go and pick you apart. Yeah. I mean, I know there's some really hard questions that can be asked.
And for me, I've been a consultant from the very beginning. So I didn't work specifically for Servicenow. So I'm constantly interviewing. And even now with having my own consulting firm, I have to interview constantly because every project's new. So
yourself,
you always have to be willing to step out your comfort zone and show how you serve. And that's what I always tell everybody. And that's what I tell transitioning service members, because I've written about 1,200 resumes at this point. And it always comes back to, you're telling a story, and you're telling a story how you can serve the person that's hiring.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And that's one of the things too. And I think Mark and Jace, you guys can attest to me with is and Joseph, you hit on this, push the envelope. So like an example was, and this is years back before ServiceNow actually wanted to.
Am I on?
Oh, got an echo there. Oh, there's Kevin. Hey Kevin. Back in the day, ServiceNow didn't really do very much with language translation, and it was a problem that needed to be solved. And so, you know what I just hacked together Google Translate and the nav header, and people loved it. It wasn't a great solution. It was an easy solution, but you know what? It solved a lot of people's problems, and it put my name, like Mark said, in people's mouths. Like, oh, well, that's my bar. Oh, wow. Like, and so that's the thing, is pushing that envelope, hacking the platform, making it do things that you wouldn't expect it to do, you know, and that's what really gets your name out there and you know, get that attention.
Well, and Mike, you know, it's funny that you say that, because that's how you and I met, right? Like that was what we had bonded over.
Oh yeah, the mid servers.
and then now Jason's gonna go, oh yeah, the mid, like it's been like years, like people still talk about this crap. I'm like, come on guys, like I'm not a one trick pony. I've got other things, like, you know,
right?
Come on, like seriously.
But you will always be Mr. Mid Server to me.
Oh, come on. You know what's funny? Mike and I should probably share that title. You know, Fedora gave me that title. I'm like, Mike's probably Mr. Mid Server just as much, if not more, than I am. Like, come on.
You're Mr. Mid Server. I'm Mr. Mid Server Junior. I'm the smaller version.
No, come on.
I'm no by height. You're much taller than I am.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, ranking them. Hey, Kevin, are you cooking? I can unmute you if you, or no.
My wife asked for a steak, and I'm cooking. I'm putting a steak on, and I've got bacon in the oven. So yeah,
this is great.
He's a man that serves.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, she can't eat the beef that has corn in it, so let's get the grass-fed beef. So
Wow,
the good stuff.
very cool. Awesome. Glad to have you on the stream. I'm gonna keep you muted because you got a little echo going, but that's okay. Yeah, so while Kevin's making steak for his wife, while we watch Kevin cook.
I haven't really eaten today. I should probably get on that. But I wanted to sort of say, you know, Mike, talking about hacking projects, like people are sort of saying, oh, how do we get into the space? Like, and even throwing back to talk to people who are in the job. Like Mike, just recently you said, I'm bored. What's something you want to happen? And everyone that you knew who works on ServiceNow was like, oh, here's something. Perfect fodder for learning the platform, doing it in your PDI, and making a name for yourself, right?
Yeah. And hopefully within a week or so, we're going to make email great again, guys. It's going to be pretty cool. It's coming.
I think some of the best for it. I think some of the best advice I got from Robert Fedoruk was go on the community and see what the trending questions are, and then take that question and go try to fix it in your PDI.
Best advice he's ever given me.
Yeah, and that guy is kind of who I grabbed onto, and Jace and Mark when I first came in, because I said I need to see who's doing what are they doing, how are they doing it, and I need to get my name out there. So I had to go figure out ways to, like you said, put your name in people's mouth. And I did that through content, but also constantly watching what the names in the space were doing. And everybody was in the community. So I was like, okay. And there were times where I would go look at a question and try to solve it and was like, nope, can't. But then I would ask the same question in the thread that everybody else was asking. And I was like, okay. And then I would try to build a little bit more. So it's just the constant, like you said, hacking of growth, but then being able to communicate that eloquently in a resume. I mean, in a resume, but also in an interview. Like it shows that you're a problem solver, because that's what it really comes down to. We're troubleshooters and we solve problems. Yeah.
Unfortunately, my most helpful post is adding a URL in field messages. My most helpful post. I don't know why. It's a DOM hack, but everybody loves it.
Dude, people love DOM hacks. DOM hacks are terrible, but you know.
I think my most helpful post is requiring a comment on an approval inside on a rejected approval inside Service Portal. So there's like an out-of-the-box widget that when you hit approve or reject, it goes and does it. And I wrote a little piece of code that changed an out-of-the-box widget, pops a modal and says, why are you rejecting this? And it doesn't let you go until you've hit it. And like once a week, every couple of weeks, I'll get helpful comments, additional, like it's still going. And this is from 2016, 2017. I did that in my first job.
That's crazy. And that shows the power of like evergreen content too. I mean, you post one thing and it continues to put your name out there. You can't put a thing on that. And I think another thing from a mentor that I got was always be interviewing. So always be interview ready, and also be like prepared to bomb interviews sometimes. Like when I first started, like I didn't even know the language, like how to communicate. And my first couple interviews, I bombed them, but I knew I needed to bomb them, but I need to get the exposure to understand what the hiring managers were going to ask me so that I can prepare.
Did you get feedback? Just curious. Like
because I asked. I asked at the end. I said, are there any concerns that you have? And they were saying, we weren't. I mean, honestly, your JavaScript skills weren't really there. I said, okay, perfect. Is there anything specifically that you think I should work on for other interviews? And I was blessed to have people that said, yeah, man, you need to know this thing. Like glide record is the bread and butter. You need to understand how to articulate that. So that's my thing is like, I went into that interviewing knowing like, I'm probably not going to get the role, but I look at it as an opportunity because I get to even be in the room with somebody who can potentially ask me questions to prepare. So I've only been in the ecosystem for 3 years. So I'm always willing to take interviews and ask questions because I'm always trying to grow. So it's just that desire to step out of your comfort zone and be willing to be grilled if that's what comes to it.
And random live streams.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the interview format, right? Where it's there's people watching. I mean, I think everyone that was watching joined the stream, so there's a problem. But hey, Kevin, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
You can always take notes in an interview. Like, there's no reason not to take notes in an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are so valuable after the fact.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about it too is if somebody knows, like, if you go into the interview and you give it your best shot and they ask you a question and you can't answer it, and you tell them, hey, right now I can't answer that, but I would love to follow back up with you an email with the answer. And even if they're like, yeah, whatever, and you still do it, at least it shows that you do have that hunger. And that's the big, and especially in the beginning for anybody who's watching, where you're trying to break into space. In my opinion, that's the hardest thing to do, because there's so much imposter syndrome that you're feeling about, can I even do this? And you just got to be willing to hear no and get rejected, but keep coming back. And again, the thing about it, those initial interviews, like, those people are now my mentors because they saw me back then trying everything I could to get a shot. And now they're like, I mean, you're doing it, and they're continually giving me advice on what to work on and things like that. So don't hesitate to try and attempt, because you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And to add to that with the imposter syndrome, I can say that 3 years of my career, I've copied and pasted everybody's code. Like, the code is there, and it took me a long time to actually understand what I was copying and pasting. But if ServiceNow is using it and it works, well, give it a shot and reapply it. Eventually your imposter syndrome will make you an expert. You fake it. I call it fake it till you make it. Eventually you fake it for so long, you are an expert. So don't let that get to you.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, I would agree with that. I feel like I feel that imposter syndrome is like, I know what I'm doing, but it's like just having the confidence to say that, stop doubting yourself and know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that confidence. Yeah. It's that confidence that you need, that you're doing the right thing.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to just answer a question with, I'd Google it. Like, honestly, how many of us, the first thing, I need to, I don't know, have an ACL on a CMDB subclass that applies to everything below it. It's like, I don't know if that's how it works, but I'm going to Google it and find out in about 5 minutes because this question will have been answered before. there's going to be a Chuck Tomasi post on community with this is exactly what you need to do, you know?
I still have to Google foreign key loops. Like it's just, you're not going to remember everything, but as long as you know where to get that information, that's all that matters.
And I think that extends out to junior devs too, where I think one of the biggest questions I like to ask in an interview to somebody interviewing is, what happens if you can't solve a problem? What's the process that you go through in order to get an answer? Because that tells you a lot about someone's, again, their humbleness, their ability to ask for help, especially if you're junior, because we're hiring you knowing you're going to need to be groomed. And our goal is to get you aligned with somebody who can teach you the best practices. So if you're able to articulate, if I run into a problem, first thing I do, I'll look on the community, I'll look at Google, and then I will come to that senior dev and say, this is everything that I've done. These are all the troubleshooting steps that I took, but I just can't figure out the next thing. And a lot of times what will happen is that senior dev will say, hey man, you missed just one thing right here. But that proves to that senior dev that this guy or woman is willing to put forth the effort, but also be humble enough to ask for help. And once I was comfortable enough to do that, that's where I found senior devs that really poured into me, and gave me opportunity.
And I want to point out, like, I worked for an organization, so TB Consulting, right? We called it the tenets of operation, right? So it was like our DNA. It was what we went to work with every day, and felt like, hey, what was, I don't know, how do you define our company as a whole, right? And it's one of the things that we had always said, one of the rules was, I don't know is an acceptable answer. Right? 100% of the time, every time, I don't know is an acceptable answer. But 24 hours later, there had better be a follow-up communication, right, about what you learned and why you either, here's your opinion now, or here's an addendum to what you were saying. Like it's that important, right? You say, I don't know, but the action is following up. It's pushing forward and making sure you learn something from it. And again, interviews, like I think we'll have a full episode on interviews at some point, right? Like that's the key. It's showing off that that you can go and learn, right? Learn to learn, right? That's what I feel like college is about. Learning to learn. You're being taught to learn, so that when you go off into the world, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you fall down, you get back up, and you make things happen. That's the whole problem.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, how do you think all best practice guides were written?
Exactly.
Failing.
Yeah.
They were handed to us from the heavens.
And I think that goes back to show, especially on the consulting side, you're going to have a client, I guarantee you, in the middle of a call with everybody on the call, ask you a question and you don't know the answer to. And how you handle that is the same way you will handle any issue that you find on your own, where it's just you heads down developing. How are you going to go about it? And there's been plenty of times where I'm asked a question and I will have to say, let me circle back with you. But you always circle back. Like that's always number one. You come back to the table with some kind of information.
Yep. And you put your name back in their mouths, right? Like it's like, oh man, that guy followed up, or that person followed up, right? And now I've got an email with that, like, there, and they showed that initiative. Like that's huge. That's massive. And when you go to interview, I don't know if people, like, who's taking notes. Like if you follow up, find an excuse to follow up. Like find an excuse, like find a reason to, thank you for interviewing me. I'm looking forward to the second interview. Like pump yourself up, pump anybody else up, right? Like, oh, this was so great. I'm so glad I connected with you. You're such a great person, right? Like it's not going to cost you any money to do that, right?
Yeah.
You can only help yourself.
And that interviewing is a skill, but that post follow-up is something that so many people don't value, but I guarantee you will give you an advantage because nobody does it.
Thank you is free. Thank you is free all day long. Thank you is free.
Even if you don't get the role, like thank them for their time. It's the little thing.
You don't know who you're going to interview with in 10 years. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you never know. You never know.
And they might refer you to somebody with a junior role. Like this guy, isn't good a fit for us, but he's a good fit for you.
Right.
Is like connecting with someone on LinkedIn after an interview weird or okay?
Mandatory. Yeah. Mandatory. Connect with them beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's another skill is communicating with the recruiter. Who am I interviewing with?
Yeah.
Connect with them.
Also,
Send them a message. Say, I look forward to speaking with you.
Yeah.
And then
Also, I
after
recommend
you
have
send
an
one.
interview, Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
If you get an interview, it'll oftentimes have the person's name in there. Look them up beforehand. You can look it up. That way you can research them and research maybe what they're doing. I always look up research the actual employer or who I'm talking to first.
So one thing you brought up, Joseph, was if someone asks you a question, and you don't know, how do you handle that? So this is one of the things that I ask on every interview. How do you say no? Like,
Yes.
How do you tell a client no? Or how do you tell your I don't want to say your boss. Yeah, exactly. How do you,
business side, any other person that you might have to go toe to toe with? How do you say no? I'm not going to do that.
Correct. That's a huge thing. That's a huge. If you can tell me how you say no and you explain it well, it's already a win in my book, because the way that I see it, I think Steve Jobs said this. You can say no. If I say no, I'm saying no to that one specific thing, but you can change it, and I might say yes to it. So I think that's a very key thing that you're not going to put on a resume, but it's very key when I interview people. I ask them that. How do you say no?
I wish my kids would learn that.
And I think there's something too. There's a book called The Third Door, and this is something I tell a lot of transition service members. Like, I take the third door in everything I do because I don't have a degree. I didn't have the years of experience. So I had to figure out a way that worked best for me, and that's my people skills. So I would send the connection requests. I would network my face off because I knew that I had to do whatever it took to get that interview. And sometimes it was somebody just referring me. Like, this guy he's hit me up so many times asking how he can serve, anything he can do. Just give the guy a shot. And sometimes you just got to leave yourself open for like opportunity like that, and be willing to say. So my third door, I always say, is like, there's a nightclub, there's the front door where everybody goes in, there's a side door where all the famous people, and the third door you have to climb up the dumpster and go through the back window. That's how I've done everything, because I had to look at the situation uniquely to me, and be willing to do all the extra work that it took to get here.
What you lack in technical ability, you can make up for in charm, and it's true. It's 100% true. And it doesn't have to be charm. It could just be persistence, whatever you want to call it, right? It's that tenacity of just coming at that problem and never stopping, and just being like, my first job in tech, that's the same way I got it, right? I kept badgering a friend of mine. I'm like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Have you thought about this? He's like, dude, you cut hair for a living. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I want to do what you're doing, right? And over and over and over and over until finally he was like, just apply. And I probably wouldn't have gotten that job, honestly, if he hadn't been like, he won't stop talking to me, like he just won't stop, like never ends. So
hire him to make him shut up.
Do whatever you have to do to get in the nightclub. Because for me, I knew I just needed to get in the room and get around people that are doing it every day, and then it's like you start taking on so much of it because you're hearing it every day. And I remember like the first in 2019 when I took my job with ISM, I just took notes all day long. Like, people we have a stand-up call, and people would be talking about what they did, and I had no idea what anybody was talking about. But in my free time, I would research and then ask follow-up questions the next day. Like, hey, so I was researching and found out this and this and this and this, and everybody on the call, like the senior dev, she poured into me. She was like, the fact that you're just willing to always ask questions and try to learn is why you're still here.
That was my favorite part about in-person knowledge. That was my favorite part, because I just out of nowhere, having a drink, or whatever with these big wigs, senior directors of marketing at Servicenow. Like, I never thought I'd even get face to face with them, but here I am having drinks with them, and we're joking around talking about Servicenow and things like that. I miss those days.
Yeah.
All right. This has been great, guys. I think this is amazing time. This was a lot of fun. I'm no joke. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to plug what you're selling, or a blog, a LinkedIn post, something. But I'll start at the top. Let's go with Jace first. Here we go, Jace.
All right, guys. In under 5 minutes, you'll know everything there is to know about ServiceNow every week. Just check it out at news.js.pro. or look me up on LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever.
Awesome. Joseph, you're next.
My only plug is if you need resume help, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help. I've been through the struggles myself, and I feel like I've gone through them, so I can help other people. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out anytime on LinkedIn, email, anything like that. Whatever works best for you.
Awesome. Mike, you're next.
Thanks to Jason and giving me a coding challenge. I've got a GitHub repo for MJML, which is making responsive emails look pretty in Servicenow, and also a couple of other repos like my Google Translate that's like 5 years old. But go check it out. My GitHub name is mbar_snc. So go check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. If please feel free, ping it in chat, and then obviously there will be a log of this. Kevin.
Hi everyone. I don't have anything to say. I'm cooking steak, so I'm really off the cuff. I wasn't sure what to say. I'll come back and we'll revisit this next, the interviewing one.
You got it. And upside down, Andrew.
Yeah, cool. I'm all over the internet. Andrew Albury Door, andrew.alburydoor.com, I think is my website. I don't know. If you subscribe to my YouTube, maybe I'll make more videos. We'll put it that way.
All right.
I do want to cover Knowledge 22 in Sydney, where I'm really excited to go, and I want to try maybe do YouTube shorts of around the show floor and stuff. So if you are keen for that, follow, subscribe, smash the like button, whatever. All of that crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much to my guests. Thank you everybody that came on. Chat, thank you so much for being here with us. I absolutely love this format. I think this is going to work very well moving forward. I hope you do. I'm going to close the window to the stream now. Hopefully that API call works too. If you've been there, you know what I mean. All right, guys. Thank you so much again for coming on. We'll see everybody again next week. We're going to do Fridays at 5:30 p.m. PST, PDT. I don't know, Pacific time in the Pacific area. Every Friday, 5:30. Check us out. Thank you very much. All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.